Rob here at etrailer.com, and today you're going to be taking a look at the CURT Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2018 Jeep Compass. So here's what our hitch is going to look like once it's fully installed. It's going to have a really nice clean appearance to it because the cross tube is going to be completely hidden behind the bumper, and all we're going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. Now our hitch is going to give us a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is going to be great for a lot of different variety of things. Whether we need to tow a trailer, we can find a ball mount, throw a bike rack on there, take them with us on a trip, or if we need to free up space on the inside of our Compass, we can put a cargo carrier in there. Now regardless of what kind of accessory we're going to use, they're all going to mount up using the hitch pin hole here on the side. Our hitch is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these are not included in our kit, but you can pick them up here at etrailer.com along with some locking devices to make sure your accessories are secure. Now if you do plan on towing a trailer, we're going to have to hook up our safety chains. And our safety chain connection point is going to be welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. And we'll have plenty of room to get most size hooks on or off. And that slight offset of the hitch pin hole means that we're going to have less interference with the hitch pin hitting our safety chain loops. Now as far as the weight capacity of the hitch goes, it's going to have a 600-pound tongue weight. That's going to be the maximum downward force of the receiver tube. That's going to be a good amount if you're using a larger cargo carrier or even a bike rack up to 4 or 5 bikes. Now if you are going to be towing, our hitch is going to have a 4,000-pound gross trailer weight rating. That's how much you can pull, including the trailer and everything we have loaded on it. But with those numbers in mind, you always want to double check your Jeep's owner's manual because you don't want to exceed the manufacturer's recommended weight. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and that's going to help you whenever you're looking for accessories for your hitch, like a ball mount, a bike rack, or even a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper, you're right about 4 inches. Now that measurement's going to come in handy when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you have enough room and that they're not going to come in contact with the rear bumper. From the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, right about 14 inches. That measurement's also going to help you when you're looking for a ball mount to make sure you can match up the appropriate riser drop for your trailer. But now that we've seen what our hitch looks like, let's put it on together. To start out, we're going to come to the back bumper and we're going to have 2 fasteners that are holding the fascia to the body support. So we're going to want to grab a T30 Torx bit and we'll pull these 2 fasteners out. Our next step is going to be to lower the exhaust. Now I'm going to put a strap up so that it doesn't come down too far and cause any damage. Now if we come to each side of the muffler and we look straight up, we're going to have a bracket that's tying everything directly to the frame. So we'll grab a 13mm socket and we're going to pull the bolt out from each side. And once both bolts are removed, we can lower the exhaust down so we have a little bit more room to work with. Now above our muffler we'll have our heat shield. It's going to be held in place by a couple of these nuts. There's going to be 2 towards the front here and then 1 in the center right underneath the fascia. So we'll grab a 13mm socket and we'll pull those out. With all those removed, we'll pull our heat shield out and we're going to have to do some trimming on this. Now the trimming we're going to be doing on our heat shield, basically we're just going to come to about where it starts to taper down and we're going to cut straight across and cut the tab off of each end. Now you can use whatever you have available, but I'm going to use a pair of tin snips because this is a little thick for a heat shield. Just make it easy and a lot quicker to cut through. So now that we have our heat shield trimmed, we're going to go ahead and reinstall it using the hardware that we just removed. Put it in position, then we can just loosely put the nuts back in so it'll hold it up. If we come to the bottom of the frame, at the very back, on each side we're going to find this sticker that has a couple different little circles and a dot on it. We need to remove that so we can get access to the hole underneath. So I'm going to take a knife, I'm going to come right in the middle, poke through, just make a cut or a couple cuts. Then I'll grab a flat blade screwdriver, poke it inside, and then use that to help pry that sticker off. Want to remove the entire thing so we don't have anything else covering up that hole. Now we're going to have one on the bottom here, and we'll have two on the side of the frame on each side of our Jeep. Now the hole at the very back of the bumper here on the bottom of the frame, that's going to be our access hole and one of our mounting locations. We need to enlarge that so we can make sure that our hardware, the spacer block, and the carriage bolt fits in place. Now you can use a die grinder or whatever you have, a file to enlarge it. I'm going to be using a step bit, and you just want to periodically check while you're enlarging it because you only want to get it big enough so that the hardware can fit. It's never a good idea to leave exposed metal in your vehicle, so I'm going to come back with some spray paint. I'm going to spray the hole that we drilled, hopefully preventing any kind of rust or corrosion. And we'll do that for any bare metal surfaces on our vehicle. Now that we have our access hole drilled out, I'm going to come to the furthest forward mounting hole that's on the side. We'll have one that's going to be pretty close to where we have our exhaust hanger bolt go to the bottom on the side of the frame. If we move back a little bit, we'll have another one. Grab our pull wire. We're going to take the coiled end. We're going to go in through the furthest forward mounting hole. We're going to feed it back so we can get it to go towards our access hole. Now we did just drill this, so you want to be careful if you reach in. Once we have it coming through, it's important that we leave the tail sticking out of the frame still. We'll take our square hole spacer block, we're going to slide it over the coiled end of our wire, and we're going to push it into the frame. Then we'll take our carriage bolt, thread it onto the end of the wire, and we'll push everything into the frame. And we're going to pull on our pull wire until the bolt comes popping through the frame on the side. Now for now, we know that it comes through, we don't have any problems, so I'm going to leave my pull wire attached and just gently have it come into the frame like that. Now we're going to repeat that for our forward mounting hole. For the very bottom rear hole, we're going to be using the reverse fish wire method. We're still going to take our pull wire with the coiled end, except this time we're going to slide our spacer block over, and then we'll take our carriage bolt and thread it onto the end of the wire. And this time we'll feed our bolt in first, then we'll push the block in afterwards, making sure everything goes all the way in the frame, and then we're going to pull the bolt down so it goes through the block and comes all the way down through the frame. And we're going to do that entire process over on the other side of our Jeep. I went ahead and marked out the center section that's going to need to be trimmed before we put our hitch up. The easiest way to find the center is when you come to your mounting locations from those two screws we removed, measure from center to center, and then we can divide by 2, and that'll give us our center point here. Then we follow the instructions. It'll tell us how wide and how tall we need to cut. Now that is just a reference, so I always like to trim a little bit smaller, and then we can always take more material off if we need to, but I'd rather have a too small of a hole and trim it out rather than having too much taken away. Now when we cut this out, you can use a pair of tin snips, a knife, or I'm going to be using a rotary tool to make it a little quicker and cleaner cuts. We can always come back and clean up all that excess plastic and use some rubbing alcohol to wipe off the paint marker on there. Now on the exhaust, if you remember on those brackets that we removed, we'll see that they got these tabs coming off the end. These are going to interfere with our hitch. So we have a couple different options. We can take a pair of pliers and we can grab those tabs and bend them to where they're flat, or we can just cut the entire tab off. Now they don't really serve a major purpose, and they're going to be in the way of our hitch, so I'm going to take my rotary tool and I'm going to cut that tab off so it's nice and flush right here at the end of the bracket. Pull down on the muffler as well, and once we get it behind the fascia just a bit, we are going to have to pull outward on the fascia to sneak that cross tube behind it. And once you have your hitch in position, if we pull on our pull wires and have the bolts come out through the side of the frame, it should have enough to hold the hitch in place so we can get the hardware in. And once you have the weight of the hitch on the bolts, we're going to remove our pull wire off of one of them, and we're going to want to get a flange nut from our kit, and we'll secure it down. Now all the other locations are going to use that same flange nut. I'm going to come back with a 3/4 inch socket. You can also use a 19mm socket, and I'm going to snug up all my hardware. You want to make sure you use a torque wrench and go back, and you're going to torque all your hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. You want to make sure you repeat that for any remaining hardware you have. At this point, we can lift our exhaust back up, and we'll take the factory bolt, go through the bracket, and go through the hitch, and re-secure it at the bottom of the frame. Then we're going to remove the strap that was supporting the exhaust. And lastly, we'll put those 2 screws back in the bottom of the fascia. With everything tight, that'll finish up your install, and you're ready to hit the road.